Cunningham, and today we're going to be doing a steakhouse dinner for two in your home. On the menu is a grilled ribeye steak, caramelized shallot mashed potatoes, and roasted asparagus. I already have the potatoes on the oven or on the stove. It's about 1.5 pounds of Yukon Golds, peeled and cut into about a 1-inch dice. Make sure you salt your water to give them flavor. The next thing I'm going to do is get my shallots going, because they're going to take probably about 20 minutes or so to caramelize. You want to get them nice and soft. You take about 2 tablespoons of butter and get that on the stove. While that butter is melting, I'm just going to finish up chopping up the last of my shallots here and get those going. You want to cut them as thin as you can, but not so that they're paper thin either. About 1/4 inch is good. So this is about 6 to 7 shallots that I've sliced up. I'm just going to add them to the pan with the butter and let them get softening. I'm going to add a little bit of garlic to that. This is probably 4 or 5 cloves chopped up. You want to add about a teaspoon of garlic to the shallots. I'll show you how I made that marinade too. Here I have 2 ribeye steaks with the bone in. The bone in just gives them a little bit more flavor. So get those down in our Pyrex pan here. And for my marinades, I like to do lots of fresh ground black pepper. Don't be afraid to put too much pepper on there. It's really going to soak in. These are big pieces of meat. Plenty of salt. Some garlic. About a tablespoon for 2 steaks like this. I use fresh thyme. Fresh herbs always give you more flavor than the dried ones. It sounds like our shallots are starting to go here. Alright, just give them a stir, turn the heat down a little bit, and I'm going to add some salt to those as well. Okay, the last thing I want to put on our steaks is some Worcestershire sauce and olive oil. Some Worcestershire sauce. It really helps to give it a beefy flavor, and it also tenderizes the meat a little bit. We'll grab our olive oil. About 2 tablespoons or so. I'm just going to rub it into the meat, get it on both sides. And then these are going to go in the refrigerator for at least an hour, but you could really do it for up to 24. If you do it overnight, they'll be even richer, which is what I did with the 2 steaks that I showed you earlier that we're going to cook today. Okay, we'll pop these in the refrigerator. So next we'll start our mushrooms. This is about 2 packs of white and baby portobello mushrooms. You can use whatever kind your store has available. You can use oysters or chanterelles would be really nice too. I just slice them up thin, about 1/4 inch. Add this to my pile, and again, gotta have butter. Get another tablespoon or 2 there. With our mushrooms, I have some small diced shallots that I'm going to add to those along with the rest of this garlic. It's probably about 1 clove that we have left there. And that's fine, it doesn't have to be exact measurements, just eyeball it. If you like garlic more than the next person, then by all means, go ahead and put 2 cloves in there and try not to break your bowls in the process. So now that our butter is getting melted, I'm going to add this to it, add our mushrooms in, and then we're going to get to the brandy, the good stuff, right? So throw this in our pan. those going. Add the mushrooms. Okay, and again, the mushrooms, they're probably going to take 15 minutes or so just to really get dark and brown and caramelize. Brown food is always good food, so don't be afraid to let it take a little longer. Next, I'm going to get started on our asparagus. Roasted asparagus is delicious. You can usually find asparagus year-round in your grocery store. Sometimes they're a little thinner, sometimes they're nice and thick. Either way is fine. I'll show you guys a little trick. I don't know who I learned this from, but they say if you bend the asparagus, where it snaps is where you should cut it. So the bottom part tends to get a little woodier and tough. You don't really want to eat the bottom. So just take this piece, line it up with the others, and then that's where you're going to cut. I keep the rubber bands on just because it saves me from chasing them around the cutting board. So lay those on my sheet pan. Okay, so I got our mushrooms turned, get them browning. Shallots are looking good. Continue with the asparagus here. I'm going to add olive oil, garlic, and some lemon zest. Just stream the olive oil on. I'm going to chop 1 clove of garlic. I always give it a little smash with my knife first just to help me get it started. Makes it a little easier to chop. Scrape it off. Run my knife through it one more time there. Doesn't have to be real fine, just so that you're not getting huge pieces. And you just sprinkle that over the garlic, or over the asparagus. A little bit of salt and pepper. Fresh lemon, and this is a zester. If you haven't used one, they're a great investment. Lemon zest, citrus, any kind of zest really adds a lot of flavor to your food. And you just scrape it over, in this case the lemon, but you can do it with any citrus. And it gives you really fine strips of the rind. And add a lot of great flavor to your food. Just want to make sure that you don't go into the white part of the fruit, the pith. Now that I have all my ingredients on there, I'm just going to toss it together. Make sure that everything is evenly distributed. Olive oil is on every piece so it doesn't burn. Okay. And I'm going to put these off to the side. It's only going to take about 10 minutes, so when I put my steaks on, I'm going to put this in the oven as well. To sear your steaks in your home, I like to use cast iron when I can't grill just because it's a more even heat and it really gives a good sear and crust to the steaks. So I'm going to get our shallots off of the stove, get a bowl to put those in, and then we'll get our cast iron going. So for the shallots, you can see that they're just getting brown, soft. They've given up a lot of their liquid. And this is what we're going to fold into the mashed potatoes later. Just scrape those into the bowl. And we're just going to set these aside till later when our potatoes are done and we drain them. Just like you'd make any regular mashed potatoes, but these are going to get folded in to the last minute and really add a lot of flavor. This is the cast iron. You can buy them. Any restaurant supply store has them. Places like Williams-Sonoma sell them pre-seasoned. When you use cast iron, you want to make sure that you don't run soap on it. Just wipe them out when you're finished and it adds to the seasoning. These will last forever and really give you a great tool in the kitchen. And once that gets melted down, we're going to let it get a little bit brown before we add our steaks. And then we're going to just let them sit probably 2 minutes on either side for medium rare. If you like them well done, you probably go about 4 or 5 minutes for these steaks. They're about a ½ inch to 1 inch thick. And take these over to the stove and keep an eye on our butter. The brandy, you can use any type of, whatever you have around the house is fine. Don't go out and buy the most expensive kind you have. It's not worth it in this case. The alcohol is going to cook off when you do that. About 2 tablespoons. Give it to touch. Just shake the pan around a little bit. It'll make the flame die down a little faster if it makes you nervous. Pretty cool, huh? See, who says you have to be in a steakhouse to make gourmet flamed mushrooms? You can do it right at home. We take our steaks and add them right to the pan here. Get them in there. I'll let those sear on that side. I'm not going to touch them at all for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. This is heavy whipping cream. We're going to add it to the mushrooms. About a tablespoon. Alright, maybe 2 tablespoons. Just eyeball it. Move this back over. Just stir those up. Turn the heat back up a little bit. We're just going to let the cream thicken. And this will be the mushroom brandy sauce to go on top of our steaks. Alright, and as promised, I'm going to get the asparagus in the oven now. And that's going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. So even though I said the steaks are only going to take about 2 minutes per side, they're going to need to rest when they're done. So the asparagus will finish cooking while the steaks rest. So I'm just going to turn them over. You can see that nice crust on the steaks is already starting to caramelize and give lots of good flavor to the meat. You can smell all the garlic and the fresh thyme on the steaks too. As soon as they hit that butter, the aromatics just fill the whole house. So if you're trying to impress your sweetheart, make dinner for your parents, something like that, this is a great meal to really impress them. Who doesn't love a great steak at home? So just carefully lift them out of there. Again, try not to pierce the meat, let the juices run out. If you have a pair of tongs, I suppose that would work better than a fork. I'll set these aside. Okay, so I'm just going to set these aside and then tent them with foil to keep them warm while they rest. I think our potatoes are just about done, so I'm going to go ahead and strain those, mash them, and add our shallots. I already have a colander in the sink here, so let's take the pan over here. Always be careful when you're draining anything with hot water. The steam is always hotter than the water and you will get burned. When they're just about mashed, I like to add buttermilk. For me, it's the best of both worlds. You have the milk and you have the tanginess from the butter, or the buttermilk with the sour cream. Makes great mashed potatoes. Okay, they look well combined. Get my beaters off. So next thing we're going to do the potatoes. They're almost done. We're just going to add our shallots that we caramelized earlier. You can dump them all right in there. You just want to fold them in. If you beat them in, they're just going to come into little tiny pieces and you won't even notice that they're there. But I like to be able to see them. I want everybody to know that they're there. So just fold them in. We're getting close. It's almost time to eat. Let's check on our asparagus. That looks good. They're still bright green. You don't want it to go as far when they start to brown. You want them to still be nice and crisp and green. I'm just going to set these on the stove for now. We're ready to start plating. I hope you're hungry. It smells good in here. We've got 2 plates. We'll grab our steak. Turn that over. The first thing I like to do is put a little scoop of the mashed potatoes on each plate. Smooth it down a little bit. It's going to serve as the bed for our steaks. See how they're doing. Oh yeah, and all that juice, don't worry, it's not going to go to waste. We're going to add that to our mushroom sauce. Okay, we'll take this sauce, add it to the mushrooms, and we'll be ready to add that to the top. Scoop up the mushrooms, the brand new mushrooms. And last but not least, a nice crisp green asparagus. Right along the side. If you really want to show off your culinary skills and impress your wife, or maybe wives are impressing your husbands, add some fresh herbs to the plate. It'll give it that extra restaurant touch. You really feel like steak home at dinner. So a second way to plate your steak would be to take the whole ribeye and just slice it about 1 inch thick. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then you can put the slices on each individual plate. I'll just take a few slices with my knife here. And then we'll just transfer that right over. And again, a little fresh herbs never hurts. And that's it. The steakhouse dinner for 2 at home. My name is Samantha with Hungry for Time, and I hope this gives you a good alternative to going out to dinner every night.